welcome to the Faith First Podcast. This is our very special 150th episode. My name is Pastor Craig Brown. I'll be your host, and this is a weekly recorded audio conversation between our pastors, our church members, and our community leaders in and around First Lutheran Church in Cedar Rapids about the Scriptures and our shared life in Christ. And we made our 150th episode a very special one. Thank you all for taking the time to be with us. Instead of our normal format, for this milestone episode, Pastor Steve, Pastor Katie, and I will spend the entire time talking with each other about our 5 most memorable moments in ministry together over 90 years of collective service to the church. There will be laughs, there'll be moments of deep reflection, and maybe even a few inappropriate comments. Stay tuned. There are stories of near weddings performed at the Statue of Liberty, a family dispute at a funeral that almost led to a body snatching, to use Pastor Katie's words, to singing the most bizarre of song choices to a newborn baby in the hospital. You're in for a wild ride, so buckle up for our 150th time as we put our faith first. All right. Nope. Now we broke his mic. We haven't used 3 mics in a while. This is an adventure for us.
I'm just watching the two of them. I'm just staying out of this. I know my gifts. My gifts are not technology.
We have Pastor Steve, Pastor Katie with us. How are you guys today?
We are fine.
Oh, doing great.
Yeah, we've just spent 25 minutes trying to get these mics to work, but hopefully we've taken care of it now.
See, these two, I wondered why we should have a videotape. It was fun. It was.
Well, we're about to have more fun. We are looking, I've had us put 5 memorable moments on strips of paper here in front of us in a pile. I'm now mixing the pile. Ooh. And should we have ladies go first? We'll pick one out and see whose it is. And
so it's not necessarily
mine.
It's
not yours.
No.
It could be anyone.
It's
could be
just
anyone.
somebody's. Okay, here we go. Ready? Drum roll. Ready. Okay. Texas taught me there's no perfect circumstance for ministry.
Oh, that's me.
There you go, bud.
And I've got notes.
Oh, good for you.
Goodness.
We didn't take
I didn't bring any notes.
Okay, just to make you feel bad.
Just for memory here for us.
About 2017, we took our first adult mission trip in years here at First Lutheran. I'm going to name drop extensively through this podcast. Martin Wisenberg, John Swenson, Gene Kavach, Judy Johnson, Eric and Becky Jacobs. Remember them?
Yes.
I think
Seattle
they went out to Seattle. The 7 of us drove a van to Houston and Texas to help with the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. We got down there and we were helping a young woman. I believe her name was Manuela, and this was in the Pasadena part of Houston. Kind of the Hispanic area of Houston, southeast. Houston is huge, by the way. Have either of you been there?
Yes.
Nope.
It's huge.
I'd never been there. It takes an hour to go from one end of the city to the other. Mm-hmm. It's that wide apart. We hooked up with the synod down there, and they gave us her name and address, and we went down with a group from Minnesota with a bunch of tools and a carpenter. And we met this young woman. We're helping her rebuild her home, and about day 3 or 4, she came to get her mail, and we realized that she was a renter. It was not her home. And we were working under the precipice that this was her dwelling, that she owned it. And we thought, did we walk into something here? And so I called the synod guy, and he was a really nice guy. I can't remember his name. And he said, well, you know, Craig, if I was waiting for my perfect ministry, I would still be waiting to the opportunity to help someone. And so we sat down and talked about it as a group. I said, what do you guys want to do? Do you feel ethically like we should keep going? We should stop? I'll support whatever you want to do. And we had a really heartfelt conversation for like an hour or so. And the consensus was, we're just going to help her because that's what Jesus would do. Mm-hmm. And we put insulation in the ceiling. It was really hard work. It was hot. We were all sweaty. We're too old for this.
You were younger.
Yeah, I was quite a bit younger. But we had Judy Johnson and Gene Kavach there, and they were just working circles around everybody. But yeah, it really taught me that there is no perfect place for ministry. If you're waiting for the perfect opportunity, you'll still be waiting.
She asked, you served.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Oh, I went first. Now you get another one.
It was so great that I didn't go back. I don't think we've done a mission trip since. All right. Next. Small things that count.
Oh, I think that's mine.
Okay.
You know, it goes back to serving at Vinci in Minnesota. Was there for 19 years and did 2 building projects. Went through staff and, just lots of things had happened. On my last Sunday, we gathered for worship, and we had one worship service. It was a big sanctuary. I think 600-700 people in the sanctuary. And then afterwards, we had lunch and we talked. And the things that people talked about were not the big things.
Oh, wow.
They were the little things. Wow. Conversations that I had forgotten, exchanges. What we focused on were the small things, and that was the stuff that counted.
And this was over 20 years of ministry.
It was over 20 years. And that was just so impactful for me, thinking about, what is the true shape of ministry? And what is it that either you remember or the things that make the difference? And I was just struck by, it was all of those small moments in people's homes, between, just in the course of life. Wilmer's a smaller town of about 20,000. So there's a lot of life that's lived in church, in the community, kind of one seeps into the next. Leading up to my last Sunday, I was pretty calm, but I've learned this about myself because once I was in it, I was crying all over the place.
Yeah.
I did communion, and all I could do was just say, "Here,
body,
yeah,
body."
I couldn't say those words. I was just crying. I'm just giving them bread. Here, take it. That was all I could do. But it was the small things, and
it's so true, isn't it? In ministry, it's maybe this practice is kind of antithetical, trying to come up with memorable moments because there's so many just small, unmemorable moments that are just the most powerful.
Yeah, what people remember.
Well, and in those cases too, when we often have to write up our highlights, and highlights don't often have, I had this conversation,
yes. Yeah.
I had this moment, or I said something comforting and I didn't pay attention. Each month, we put together our pastor's report, and if you look at it, it's almost always highlights.
Yep.
The big
Numbers.
stuff,
Yes.
and then you start realizing, we talk about this all the time. How many people have you engaged with? And it's the conversation you had on a one-on-one, that you'd forget about.
Yeah.
And you have to because of confidentiality, so you don't really report it.
You don't report, but the confidentiality turns into sometimes it's not it doesn't have the same value. And so it's hard to say I provided pastoral care because that stops there. But I think of, there's other professions that have the same thing. There's a boundary and they don't share the everyday moments.
No, I think, you continue to have that experience where, people will remember a visit to the hospital or a conversation, and it is seared in their memory. And it's something, and when they call it to mind, it's like, oh yes, I remember.
Yeah.
I can go back to that.
Yeah.
That's my experience in communion, is that for every person I give communion, I have this sort of gestalt moment where I remember every conversation, every exchange with them in that moment that I've ever had with them. There's something, there's not a file cabinet, but a storehouse of memories and things, and it just is all right there.
I'll give you a real world example real quickly. So our oldest son, Kirk, had an emergency procedure, and he had a diverticulum, which is part of his large intestine, grew a second stomach, and we didn't know it for years. And usually they're benign, but this one started, causing problems. And he went dead white. I thought he was dying on the toilet overnight. And he fainted, and not to get too graphic, but it was serious. I'm just trying to say it was very, very serious. Called the ambulance, went to St. Luke's, went to the University of Iowa, didn't know if our son was going to live or not. And the doctor's like, we'll just take care of it. He'll be fine. This is routine for us. I'm like, I've been up all night. I'm exhausted. I don't know where God is in all this. And just at that moment, Pastor Steve shows up and had the perfect prayer.
Well, it was the perfect exchange. So Kirk's about 12 or something like that. Yeah. And we talk. And then I asked my question, what would you like me to pray for?
Kirk, to set this up, Kirk is very black and white.
He looks at me and he says, me,
dummy.
dummy. Okay, yes.
But that was one of those moments that's seared in our hearts and brains. And for you, it's just for you too.
I
it's
still remember that one.
I had only been here maybe 2 months, and John's dad passed away. And I was doing the service for the family because they didn't have a church home anymore. And so here we are, and we're at Cedar Memorial. We're in their little chapel, and it's a very small little gathering. And in walks Pastor Steve. And I thought, oh, look at my senior pastor's walked in. He's here to support me. And he goes, I'm so glad you're here. He goes, I'm here for John. And that was a deal changer for our family because, yes, I'm your colleague here, but my husband was hurting and needed a pastor, and it couldn't be me. And he'll never forget that moment. I'm here for John. And the witness that you bared to what we had known was long suffering for John's dad, all of a sudden became one of the most gracious moments. Now, for you, it probably fit between 5 meetings, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we didn't know that. To us, you were fully present and fully engaged. That's why when you have those moments, you cry when you leave a space, because that comes flooding back. I may not remember the moments, but I remember my truthfulness while I served. But for John, that was a deal changer for us.
Well, we're through 2.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, we got a few to go.
I'm staying clear of mine.
This is my. I said
You got your own?
here's a church that doesn't need a building program.
Oh, maybe here.
Whoopsies.
I had just again from Vinci after 20 years. We just had 2 building programs, and they were a little more traumatic. I mean, during 2008 or 9, so the contractor went under. We had to exercise sections of the contract that you don't normally read, and they had to leave the contract. We had to finish it up on our own with the subs. We had so much money that we thought we were okay, but then we ran out of money, and then we had to figure out what we're going to do for refinancing. And then the new, what we had to finish was too big. We had to rescope it. We did it. It's beautiful. It's wonderful, but it was a hard slog. And I thought, that was my 3rd and 4th building project. Like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do that again. I came to First Lutheran. I looked. The building looked good. I said, oh, good. Here's a church that doesn't need a building program.
Yeah.
And so and we had the first couple of years we're doing ministry, and there were kind of there were some extra funds, so we were doing tuck pointing and a little this and that. And I remember going to a trust meeting, and Gordon was just saying, well, here are the things that, we're kind of looking at. And
this is Gordon Epping.
Yep, Gordon Epping. And it was Dee Beatty who, in the trust, said, wait a minute. What's the big plan here? We got all these things. And it was in that moment I said, I know what this means. That was like 2013. And I went home, and I told my wife, I said, well, I think we got another building project. And she looked at me and she said, I am so sorry. And sure enough, it took 10 years.
$7 million later.
Or at least, 10, 12 years from the very beginning.
Oh, the cottage meetings.
Yeah, the cottage meeting. It was like 35 cottage meetings I did by myself over the course of a month. 350
people or more.
Yeah, but that was just the beginning. Just to kind of, I don't want to do this again. But... there's a church that doesn't need a building program.
We got to get one for Katie.
Oh, gosh, no, I'm good. I love listening to you guys'. Uh-oh.
Moments in music that just stop. Youth mission trips. Is that you?
Yeah, that is actually me. I got 2 mission ones. That's one of my favorite things, actually, is mission trips. John and I used to go down to Mexico every 6 months, which was lovely. He would treat about 300 people in about a day and a half. And those were lovely, but they were very service-minded. Mm-hmm. Then I started taking high school youth to mission trips all over the United States. And no one sets up a mission trip because things are going well. So you're going into a community that is suffering. You're going into people's homes who have had to change their ideas of what it's like to have their home refurbished, because they're going to let 14-year-olds in here now. So that's who's welcomed you in. Nothing's going well. And I still remember we're in Chillicothe, Ohio, and I'm thinking, Chillicothe, it's out in the middle of no man's land. I did not know that it's the opioid capital of the United States. I didn't realize that it is got drug lords and stuff like that. I didn't know it had a murder at McDonald's, but my families did because they researched where we were going. And I'm like trying to hang on with these guys. Well, at nighttime, the drug cartels would come in the middle of these country houses. And you just sit here and go, I cannot believe how these families live each day. And here's a bunch of 14, 15-year-olds, and I'm not 14 or 15 years old. Anyway, fast forward, we are on a third-story house, and I got another one. I'm hanging on, because I can't send kids up to 3 floors. And it's just chaos is everywhere. But at nighttime, these kids would worship. 400 kids from all over the place that have all been hot, sweaty, are in a place that is in full chaos. And the town and the church sponsored us. And what they said is, we needed you to bring hope. And we're like, you don't understand. We brought you teenagers that have no skill set, da-da-da-da. And they're like, no, we needed to know that somebody else knew we were here, that our stories matter. And in the end, you start realizing the painting is not the point. It is sitting with a family that has been very vulnerable to let you there. But at nighttime, to watch kids sing with their full heart and not worried who's watching. They don't care. And everybody's tired and everybody's hot. And you're sitting in classrooms without air conditioning. And there they are. In those holy moments. And in that case, one young lady said, "Can I get baptized?" And that night in our evening devotions in a science classroom, we baptized her with her parents' permission, by the way. But we baptized her. You know, these are moments it's supposed to be hot, sticky, da-da-da-da. It's in the most vulnerable places that the most vulnerable quest comes. Can I be baptized?
It feels like a movie script.
Oh, it was stinking cool. And that happened every summer in a different way. And I'm still connected to almost all those kiddos that I've ever taken on a mission trip.
Okay, just do it ourselves. I dug the hole with the family in a country cemetery.
This is serious. So you got
it says in a country cement, but I think you meant cemetery.
Cemetery. The word got to.
This is my favorite headline.
I served in a rural community, and we talked about this. In a rural community, funds are limited. And so it's very common, you got very creative, and there wasn't often a funeral home, and there wasn't often a casket. And it was often you could afford to get Iowa cremation, and the family would go and get the ashes, and then we did the service ourselves. We had our own funeral coordinator. She did everything, and then we even had a fund at the church that paid for the food, because when you have nothing, your church is your home. We did a family funeral.
That's the way it should be.
And so, but we're doing this funeral, and I just, I'm used to going to some crazy out in the middle of nowhere cemeteries, but they're everywhere, by the way. And we get out there, and there's no hole. Now, we're already doing a little box, tiny little box, and we're already doing the ashes are in this homemade box, and it's very precious. And there's children running around everywhere, but there's no hole. So the guy, the son, looks, and he has the spades and stuff like that, and he goes,
big shovels or little things,
because he didn't want to dig it any bigger than we had to. But there was no guy coming to dig the hole.
Sure,
it was us.
Pastor Katie, pick up your shovel.
Pick up your shovel, and I'm like, I can do this. Well, I was the only one the right size who could actually keep going down there, because you have to dig them down about 4 feet. If you don't do stuff, you get issues with frost and other things happening. So I'm down in this hole.
With your hands reaching down?
Oh, reaching hands, getting the dirt up. Wow. And I just sat there, and I couldn't laugh, but this is pretty amazing, because they were so moved that this is what we were going to do for Grandma. And this is what they could afford. And this is what they could do. And I'm looking back, and I go, I just helped dig the hole for the family. And it was just, again, the tension between, this is a really good story, and it's funny, to holy ground. This is literally holy ground.
And Pastor Steve tells an anecdote that when he goes to the funerals, he likes to curl his toes over the hole to connect them. But you did one further. You got in
it. I was in it to win it, man.
But there probably is something tactile to that about being in that hole. And,
the cool thing is all the kids help put it back, and not out of fear. This is the reality of farm life. Yeah. This is the reality of life and death. And Grandma had lived a good life. There wasn't tears that way, it was tears that a matriarch of the family had died, but not that the earthly story should come to an end. But yeah, the kids all were like throwing the dirt back in, and it's what you see in Hollywood. I mean, like when you think like some of these movies, because there's no some person who came with the right equipment. We had a spade and a pick, and we got the dirt out.
Have you guys ever been there when they lowered it? I had one family that wanted to stay, and the funeral home says that now they want to stay into the lowering. I'm like, I've never done that, and it was so powerful.
Oh yeah,
to watch it, the casket slowly go down into the hole. It's like, oh man, this is really concrete. This is happening. You know,
this is happening.
You don't just walk away from it, but you were in it. Oh. All right, next one. Oh, that's mine. All right, pick again. Can't pick your own gift. That's also mine.
We should have done that.
That's kind of ours. Here, let's do it together. Watching 10 people get dunked on in one day. So this.
Oh, that's all three of us, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I got to go with my notes. Sorry.
You really.
I did.
He wrote
we just brought our memories. And
I got pages. I
He's
got
got
reams.
sermons here.
You footnoted?
All right. So getting the call to baptize 10 adults. I was told this story in a couple sermons. I've been sitting under a tree at the Global Leadership Summit, and I'm praying to God and saying, what do you have for us, and what do you have for me professionally? And God says we should baptize 10 adults at First Lutheran. And I thought, we do one a year, maybe one adult, maybe zero. And I said, God, how about 5? And it took about a year. So we came back, I shared it with the congregation, and I said, this is ridiculous. Am I just hearing things? We're not going to baptize 10 adults. And several church members said to me, Pastor Craig, don't limit the spirit. Let's just see what happens. And long story short, a year later, we come up with this baptism study in the fall, and we did 8 weeks. And the last weekend, we called it Jump In. Remember that? Jump in the water?
Jump in.
Yeah. And on the last day, Pastor Katie baptized 10 adults. Not 8, not 9, not 11, but exactly 10 adults. Some had never been before, like Larry and Roxy Rustand. There was a young dad in there I've done a lot of work with, Zachary Diamaco. Glenn Muters had died not too long before that, and many of his adult children with special needs came forward. And I talked to Karen. I said, oh, did you encourage the kids to come forward? And she said, no, they all just wanted to do that to be with their dad eternally. And I just sat there, and Kate and we were talking through that Tuesday, like, who's going to do the baptizing? Who's going to do this? I don't know if I was preaching. And Katie stepped. She said, I'll baptize because it's not about Craig. I said, yep, it's not. So I got to sit there in the front row and watch Katie baptize all these people. And I'm having a Steve moment where I'm just bawling through my eyes. I can't even. It was just so beautiful to watch. I mean, not just the baptisms, but the whole thing from start to finish, like getting the call and then putting that out, saying it, speaking it into the world, which seems so ridiculous to its fruition. And just the whole process just gives me goosebumps.
The story for some of those folks where they thought they'd missed their moment, because in a Lutheran tradition, we baptize babies, and they either didn't know if they'd been baptized because no one told them the stories and how important it is. We just looked up my baptismal record here at First Lutheran, and really, I've been saying all my life it was Maria and Winnie, my sisters who were my sponsors, and it's in the big book. It's handwritten that Winnie and Maria are my sponsors. But they told the stories. So if you don't have anybody repeating your stories of being baptized as a baby, you miss these windows. Then you think, well, maybe it happened and I don't know. Then maybe even embarrassment or just I don't know how to even do it. That series that we did on baptism, I think gave people the permission to say, I don't know all the particulars. I don't know my story, but I know I want to be washed clean.
Yes.
My favorite line was last week in Pastor Steve's sermon. It's won and begun. We think the begun has to begin at 6 weeks to 8 weeks old, the babies, but the begun is when the mutuality of that act in that moment, it just all comes together. In a couple of weeks, we'll be baptizing 3 children at one time, and one of those kiddos is almost 10 years old, down to the little. And again, they're in understanding what's happening and the story that's happening, but yet they will have a family memory. Remember when you were baptized?
Yes.
And so I think that was the aha for me was adults wanting to say, I want my story, and we're telling their story over and over again.
It's not once and done.
Well, it's both things. I mean,
It's not one and
all
done.
things Lutheran is a paradox.
Yeah.
You do it once, it's once and done. But also, once you've done it, the life of faith has just begun. So we continue to, as Luther said, we're at the same time saint and sinner. We get the whole package deal in baptism and God's grace, but it also is something that begins a journey of discovery and of growth and insight so that we learn and we grow into what has been accomplished for us at the beginning.
You're like a fortune cookie. You got wise.
Hey, you know what? I got a fortune cookie right here. I've opened it up, and the next story is I nearly performed a wedding at the feet of the Statue of Liberty. And whose was that?
Not mine.
Oh,
Not
yours
Was it mine?
again.
Was it yours?
Oh,
Not mine.
Oh, did we just slip one in there?
I nearly performed a wedding at the feet of the Statue of Liberty. One of you?
No, it was
totally
me.
not me. It's him. Oh my gosh. Well, we know. We're looking at didn't do that one.
All right, October 2022. Lori Niedert comes to me with the idea of doing a fun trip to New York just to build community.
Oh.
We visited Ellis Island, the 9/11 Museum. Have you guys ever been there? Oh, it's
Been
the
by
most
it.
powerful thing I've ever seen in my life. One World Trade Center observation deck. We went to the Lion King on Broadway. We saw a fire station used by the Ghostbusters in their movie, but my favorite was a dinner cruise after dark around the tip of Manhattan. We started on the west side just as the sun was going down, and we had the skyline in our view the whole time around the water as we went over, and we ended up on the Statue of Liberty. So they make an announcement. We're inside. There's an inside-outside deck, and we make an announcement that we're coming up on the Statue of Liberty if anyone wants to see it. So Judy Johnson and I go out to see it, and we're standing right there, and a guy gets down on one knee right in front of us, and he proposes to the girl. And without missing a beat, Judy Johnson said, everybody applauds and cheers and everything. And she goes, well, he's a pastor. He can just do the ceremony right now.
They're all going, there's details to play. There are
I'm like sweating the moment. I'm like, how do I get out of this, And I said, well, I can't do it because I'm only licensed in Iowa. So that was my out.
You get it. Yeah,
You can be the Church of Universal Happiness and marry anywhere.
Yeah, give me 10 minutes. I'll get it online. So the best part is the manager comes out with a couple of flutes of champagne. And I say to him, how often does this happen? He said, every cruise.
Oh. Wow.
Every night they go out. It's at least one, if not multiple. They're ready for it. I mean, everyone wants it. I mean, you're right at the feet of the Statue of Liberty on a boat. It's all lit up and green, and it's just incredible. But, every cruise.
Wow.
Didn't do it.
They're saying, and this pastor tried to marry us right then and there. That's
You
cute.
get the
Let's see
fortune
what I
cookie,
come up
Katie.
with. All right. Oh, this is mine, actually.
Oh, well,
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you can do your own.
You want me to do my own?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
This one's
There's
called
no rules here.
First Funeral in the Body Snatchers. That is someday going to be a title of a chapter in a book that I write. So it is literally my first funeral. I'm an intern. The former church council president, who had we had just turned over a new president. So this guy was like beloved, well-known, young. He was only 42 years old. Right before this, he dies, tragic death. Linda said, nobody's died for a long time. I'm going to take a vacation. I'm going to go see my kids out in California. And as an
Famous last
intern,
words.
right,
Yeah.
we're supposed to just, this is your big moment to solo. And so I'm going to solo and everything's going to be fine. And so, of course, I get the call, hey, Katie. And I'm like, oh, no. I can even hear it in her voice. There's been this tragic death. And by the way, you're up. And I'm like, but I haven't done a funeral yet. I mean, we haven't even done one together. I haven't even watched somebody do a funeral at this point. She goes, as an intern, sometimes you get thrown into things. This is good learning opportunity for you. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So Ascension was too small, so we move it to Faith Lutheran because it's going to be bigger. Just so you know, there's 400 people who show up for this funeral.
Oh my gosh. Can they
It needed
fit
to be
400?
here. No. It should have been here. And even here would have been crowded. Everybody's distraught. This is a man who leaves two teenagers and a very young, 40-some-year-old wife. And it's just tragic all over the place. Well, his family of origin did not agree with Lutheran theology. And they came and they were what's called pre-Vatican II. And so to them, he was going to go to his grave as a Catholic, not go to his grave as a Lutheran. That would have he couldn't be buried with them back home up in South Dakota. Well, news to them, the wife had picked Marion, Iowa cemetery to bury him in. And so somebody had put some priest had said to them that if they just brought the body back, they could fix everything and do the right kind of burial and everything would be fine. So remember, this is my first funeral. I have no idea. First of all, they're Catholic. They're not excited that it's a female. I never even told them I hadn't been ordained yet. We never even got to that point. And I never told them it was my first funeral. And the funeral director happened to be a member of the church. And he'd say, like, hey, typically pastors will, and I'm sure Pastor Katie will do this too. I had no idea even, the meeting you have at the cemetery or at the funeral home, I'd never done one of those. So, like, I don't know, like he'd say, and typically pastors leave now because I didn't know when to leave. Like, I could have stayed 6 hours as they're picking out bulletin covers kind of thing. So I get there, and now the family starts this whole thing that I hadn't seen. Every chance they can, they're pulling on the casket, like literally trying to pull the casket away.
So let me get this right. There's a stray family member that's been told by a
the
priest.
Whole family on his side.
Okay.
All his brothers and sisters, grandma and grandpa.
And the
everybody.
widow, who has the rights to everything, is saying, we're going to do it here.
You're going to stay here.
But
they're going to circumvent her.
They're going to circumvent her, like as if nobody would notice.
Right. So they're slowly pulling on this casket.
And
where are they pulling? I mean, is this after the service they're pulling?
This is right before the service starts.
Okay.
They try and do it then. Okay. And they denounce the funeral. By the way, they start off this whole thing. Everybody is this is tragedy. Hearts are heavy.
This is tough for a seasoned pastor to navigate.
Here's my rookie moment. I'm sorry, you guys are listening to things you probably don't want to know, but here's my rookie moment. So the senior, the eldest pastor,
knows.
well, the elder pastor gets in and says, "I denounce this funeral. We are Catholic, and he will go to his grave."
Stands up in the public, in front of everybody.
In front of everybody.
Wow.
Remember, Martin Luther goes to his grave thinking he's Catholic too. I mean, just there's a closeness here.
We stand up and say, thank you for sharing. Now when somebody else...
without skipping a beat, I go, and we're all grieving in our own ways, but we will continue with this funeral. And I start to put I'm going to close the casket, right? Because I'm trying to regroup here. The funeral director comes flying over, puts his hand there so I can't close it. You got to lower the body before you... you close the door. I didn't know this. And he goes, "Rookie." And he just looks at me like, stop. This happens now. The casket stays in every time they can. They're trying to pull it away. So we're all having lunch, and they're still trying to negotiate if they could just pay off the driver.
They're trying to steal the body.
Oh, yeah, literally. And so now we're out at the car, and the funeral director goes, we're at the cemetery, and the funeral director goes, "When I tell you, you get in that car, the casket car, you get in that car and you don't look back because it's not going to be pretty." And I'm like, come on, how bad can this be? Rookie funeral one, right? And he goes, "Just don't look back." And they had to bring their entire staff and go around the casket so the family couldn't try and haul the body away.
As they lowered it.
As they're lowering it. So I'm standing, I won't leave this widow. And I watch them lower the body. And, normally what happens is everybody says their thing, and then the widow gets the last moment. Because this is it. They won't leave. And he goes, "Just get in the car. I'll have somebody take you home." They were out there 2 hours negotiating with the great body snatchers that thought if they could just take the body back, they would start all over. And this is funeral number 1. And my husband says, "How did it go?" I go, "Well, they didn't snatch the body." I mean, that was my walk away from this funeral.
Now that's your funeral. That's your litmus test every time.
That was my plan A after that.
No one tried to steal the body.
200 funerals later, they get much easier.
Wow, that's almost sounds like the absurdity of like the comedy. We're writing scripts
thanks,
for
Linda.
Katie's.
Thanks, Pastor Linda. I just always remember that one. Katie, this is a good learning event for you. Okay, who's picking?
Craig, you pick.
All right. Life is a bowl of ice cream.
Oh, yes. I've shared this story.
That's a good one.
So I have a piece of her art in my office. Rosemary Euland was the director of education at the congregation I had served, and she was an artist. So every Christmas, she would do a piece of art and then create a card out of that. And I asked if I could have one of the originals, and so I have it hanging in my office. And she would then make a lithograph and then make a card. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Anyway, she retired, and shortly thereafter, within a couple of years, developed cancer and had a tough battle with the chemo, and went into remission. And it was in the fall, one of those glorious days. The sky was blue, the leaves were yellow, and I went to visit her. We had communion, and she shared with me, she said, I had a friend come by to visit who'd also gone through cancer treatment, and he was in remission. He said to me, I come to this moment in life, and every morning that I wake up and I see the sky and the leaves and the world, and I just think, wow, every day is just like a bowl of ice cream. I just get to wake up to ice cream every day. And she looked at me and she said, I realize that it's true. And I also realized that I like ice cream. She lived probably 6 more months, and then the cancer came back, and then I did the service for her and shared that story at her service, because it's one of the great stories of being in touch, with the beauty of life that we have the privilege of living. And I think how often, we go through the day and we just don't see, we don't take it in, and she did.
Do you think it was a metaphor for her that she likes life? She's talking about how life is bowl ice cream, and I like life.
Well, that's what she was saying.
I like living. I like my days. But she probably literally liked ice cream too.
Yeah. Well, yes, both. Yes, both.
What's amazing about that illustration, though, is that we hear that, and we do hear, and life is good. But that hopefully tragedy and isn't what draws you to that. She was giving us an opportunity to hear. So get your bowl of ice cream today. Live life fully today.
That was right. That was the takeaway for the rest of us. And I would have to say that, how many funerals have I done? 500, 600 in my career. And each funeral, I think of it as a person's last will and testimony. Yeah. So I give them a chance to give voice to their faith, or if they don't have a faith that they have given voice to yet, how God has been at work in their lives and been a blessing to others through them. And I think that's been one of the great privileges of ministry are these funerals and drawing close to people and sharing their stories. I'd also say that, I don't have a slip on this one, but where I'd served for about 20 years before, after 400 funerals, it was starting to be hard. I had essentially said goodbye to a whole congregation. And the memories and the stories that I had carried from then, it started to weigh on me. Yeah. And then I come to a new place and you start all over again. But it was different. I haven't done quite the 400 here yet, but it was something about just
farewelling.
Yes.
It's the constant farewelling. I moved on from a congregation, and it's hard to say this, and so I didn't share this with them. But I got to that point, I couldn't farewell anybody anymore. I could get to their bedside, but I walked with them, and so many of them, their families had moved away from the area. So you're their person. You're the one who keeps visiting them. And I didn't. Small rural congregation. You're the one that's making all the visits. And I had done 3 funerals in 24 hours, and then I was doing one every other week. And I got to this point. I did a funeral for a woman I loved, and she was so dear to me. I just couldn't farewell anybody. And my level of grief was now becoming intertwined with the farewells, the constant. Do I really want to get to know somebody, one more person, because the chances are I'm going to do that individual's funeral.
Sure.
What do you guys do to unload that grief as pastors?
Say that again?
What do you do to unload that grief as pastors?
The grief at a funeral, particularly as a pastor, I think of it more as sort of holding the beauty of a person and of a life. So I find myself more being more in the presence of more beauty and meaning than I almost know what to do with. Yeah. And so I don't want to get past that. I don't know how to put that. It is something that I cherish and I hold, and I feel God speaking to me through that. So having been a part of funeral services of family members where you have that other kind of relationship, that's different than performing the funeral of congregation members or people, and being able to share their story and so forth. So I never think about having to
process grief.
My grief or whatever that way. I mean, I will. I mean, I have a spiritual director. I mean, so we do process that, but I never think about having to sort of unload it, or I think that's just one of the gifts of ministry is being able, and I think I've got that. I don't know if that's one of my slips, and maybe I didn't put that, but one of the privileges of ministry is that you get to be in the presence of more meaning and more gospel. So I never think of my work, my ministry, doing this calling. I mean, how many people get the privilege of being able to be in the presence and sharing meaning and truth and beauty in God's grace?
Exactly. I appreciate that. I'm going to say that it sounds dumb to say it's your favorite thing, but it's the most holiest work you get to do, and to be invited. One of my stories would be to that I got invited to an old high school friend. I shared that message on Christmas Eve. I mean, I hadn't seen her in 40 years. And yet in that moment, she needs somebody to witness. She needs somebody to hold her story. The difference is after years and years, I'm probably only at about 300 funerals. I didn't know what to do with that level of companionship that I had grown to during the walk with people. So at one of my congregations, I think I blew it. I blew it. I didn't know how to tell somebody that I was holding so much grief, I had no more room for more grief. And I misunderstood that I need a break and I need to get away. What I needed was to process. I needed a grief counselor. I needed to go through some stuff, and I didn't do that. And in a rural congregation, you're working so much, so hard. You're at your 60 hours a week kind of thing, as if you're going to go take a day off to go talk to somebody about your feelings. So you don't do that. I then I'm so grateful. I'm grateful I had the opportunity then to pivot and go to a congregation from the average age of 78 to 85, the average age now to 32. Well, guess what? You don't do funerals except they're tragic. They're children's funerals or something, because there is no funerals. And I did that for 6 years, no funerals at all. Mm-hmm. And what happens then is you don't have the fullness of ministry, because you're only seeing the launch. You're not seeing the good and faithful servant stories. And part of my callback here to First Lutheran, I actually did, in that context, they wanted to have the funeral here at First Lutheran, not at this new congregation in North Liberty. And so I actually did their funeral here at the church, but y'all had COVID. So I'm here at First Lutheran by myself. I think Bob was with me at church, but it's just me, and I'm doing this funeral at First Lutheran, holding their story, and I'm much healthier. And I knew how to hold their story, even though I've known them, by the way, since I was probably born. And I had grown up with one of the sons kind of thing. In fact, I dated one of the sons. But anyway, another story. That was really strange eye contact in that moment. But there's this moment where you just, I was healthier. And I think when you don't have a place to process, because you're so into it, somebody else's grief, and you don't realize that grief, in your honor of holding it, you need to talk to somebody and do some grief work yourself. And I didn't do that. And that's young pastor, first call, oopsies, and also solo pastor. You don't have time. You're moving on. And so I've always shared with new seminarians and going into your first call, find a pastor. You need a pastor.
Absolutely.
Not just a spiritual director, but who's your pastor? Now, I have many mentors, but it was, who's my pastor?
Every pastor needs a good pastor, a spiritual counselor, and a good therapist. I'll just add in there what I learned from CPE, clinical pastoral education, was going from one room to the next. All these tragic stories, you need to process it. So I would go into an empty room between them and just usually have a good cry, or just take a moment and breathe, or do a crossword puzzle or something, just to kind of reset myself. So it wasn't, and I tried to continue that like we just went. Steve and I were ministering to a family, and I went down to the university and saw him. I'm like, I'm close to everybody. I feel like a family member. And I tried to hold it together in the moment, and then I went to the stairwell and just bawled. But I think you have to let it go. It's just, you can't just pent it up, and
Whose slip is it now?
Well, hang on.
Oh.
We've done funerals. We've done weddings. What is next? Let's find out. Hang on a second. We're not sponsored by anybody. Let's hear from our friends at Thrivent. Okay, continuing on.
Okay, let's see now. Oh, it's mine. It's at Too Many Lutherans in Minnesota.
Is that even possible?
Yeah. Well, so...
Thank God for the Lutherans right now.
Yeah, right. Finishing seminary, it's like, well, where do we do ministry? And I told my wife, Becky, I said, well, there are too many Lutherans in Minnesota. I want to go out in the mission field someplace. And so I wanted to go back to California, where I'd grown up. She said, okay. And after about 5-6 years there, she said, the Golden Hills of California, it's just brown, you realize. It's just desert, I like seasons. And so we ended up back in Minnesota. And then after about 20 years there, and lo and behold, the call came from First Lutheran in Iowa. And my comment to my congregation up in Minnesota was, Iowa was never in my life plan. I had no imagination for Iowa.
What?
No.
But it's been a great place to do for ministry, and a great place for our son Peter and for us. And maybe it's just sort of a reflection that, at least in my career, I have been in Southern California, I've been in rural Minnesota, I have been now in Iowa. My dad started in rural Minnesota. He spent his life, in Southern California. I had an uncle that started in Ohio, Chicago, inner city Chicago, then South Dakota. My friends, several of them went to the mission field in Tanzania to start. We wondered about doing that, but then thought having children and being so far away from family just wasn't. But there was that, I think maybe, in that time when I was finishing ministry or seminary, kind of the imagination that the mission field was all of America or all the world, and you were sent to all kinds of places.
All the world except Iowa, I hear. That's how that story went. I think that story said anyone but Iowa.
Nowadays, students at seminary, it's intern. Like, well, where do you want to? It's like this negotiation. You get to choose your adventure. When I was at seminary, they said, well, you're going to go to this place, and so on the day of selection, I went to check on the board, and they sent me somewhere else. So I didn't even know where it was. At Byron, Minnesota, we had to look on the map even to find out where I was, going to do internship. So your life was not in your own hands. The draft, the selection, the call process was, you could end up in any kind of place.
It was so second career pastors are a lot different because we have to take in consideration we are not 25, 26 years old, and our spouse is not either. So in my case, my husband had a full practice.
Right.
So I go to the bishop and I tell him, hey, I would like to have a, what's it called, restricted. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, are you restricting the Holy Spirit? And I said, no, but the Holy Spirit and I have talked. and we both like Iowa, and it's working for us. And if you could stay in Cedar Rapids, that'd be really great. Anyway, he did not appreciate my answer.
Well, Becky and I have talked about this. I mean, she, was willing to go out to California. We had little kids then and so forth. And I suppose I followed the Holy Spirit through my wife, and that
absolutely.
So we went back to Minnesota, and it turned out we ended up in a congregation only 12 miles from the family cabin. I mean, the Holy Spirit worked in amazing ways. So it was a beautiful place and great place for us to be.
California question: is there anything you miss besides the weather?
Not particularly. Actually, we go back to visit family, and particularly when we're in the LA area, I'm just sort of more overwhelmed by the sheer size, the millions of people, and to think about how do you do ministry? How can a congregation have a sense of standing place in the community when there is just so many people and so much happening? Now, the congregation where my dad had served, they got a new pastor, and he's been there for 20 years. He's done a wonderful job. And it's probably one of the healthiest congregations in the synod there. They just did they did a building project, built a church. It was $10 million to build not even a big church, just a church. Mm-hmm. So the cost of building and so forth is so expensive out there. But it's he's done great work.
So again, I'm hearing it's very crowded. So Iowa is still looking really good to you, Pastor Steve.
Well, the funny
I'm
thing,
going to plug Iowa as much as I can.
So the funny thing about calls, so I finished seminary. We went to Europe for a fellowship. I was thinking about maybe getting a doctorate and be professor at a seminary or college, whatever.
I can see this.
Yeah,
but thank goodness, no. Thank goodness.
At that point, it's like I didn't want to be poor for another 10 years. And so I said, after that, we came back and went to California, and they're just waiting for a call. And people say, you'll get a call right away. But what happened is that because we were in Europe for the summer, all the first calls were taken up in the spring.
Yeah.
And so in the fall, in the winter, the congregations are looking for second call candidates. They're looking for people who have some experience. Mm-hmm. So I would do these interviews, and they went fine, but no, we're looking for we want somebody who's got experience. And meanwhile, we are now expecting a child, and what's going to come first, a job or the child, insurance, no insurance, where are we at? And finally had a chance for an interview at Christ Lutheran in West Covina. Interview went well enough, and then they wanted to hear me preach. And so I preached at my home congregation, and they all came down. Now you have to understand, I grew up a mile from the beach in Dana Point. I mean, the new houses being built in the 80s are $1 million. I mean, it's a very nice area. Now they're $50 million, just very nice. West Covina is in the San Gabriel Valley. That's where the smog goes, where it doesn't know where to go. It settles there over West Covina. It's an okay town, but it's not a mile from the beach. I preach. They're excited. It goes well enough, and we've got coffee treats afterwards, and they're kind of buzzing. And I think one of them asked my mom, he said, well, do you think he'll come? If we extended the call, will he come? And my mom's thinking, okay, no call, a baby, no insurance, no job. Will he come? Yeah, I think he'll come.
So your mom was your wingman? Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
All right. Moving
well done,
on.
Mama.
This one's me. You see that switch there? Flick it once.
What's that?
You see that switch there? Flick it once. Go into the notes. 2009. Steve's predecessor, Dan Colander, was retiring, so I wrote this script for a movie, which was a send-up of the Blues Brothers, which I love. And the script says that he and I had to visit the Penguin before he called it quits, played wonderfully by Hollywood actress Pastor Kay Slocum. I met with Father Chris Podowski across the street in Immaculate Conception, who later became a good friend of Pastor Steve and mine. And I remember sliding this ridiculous script across the table to Father Podowski, and he read it, and he starts laughing. He said, well, you have to shoot that here in the Catholic Church. And I said, oh, thank you. Would you mind? And he says, no, let's do it. So then I started asking around if anyone has a cop car that we could use, like in the movie. They drive an old cop car. And Vicki Hughes, who was working as receptionist here, she said she knew a classic car collector by the name of John Docterman, and he had an old cop car. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big car collector in the area. So he loans us a cop car, and it comes the day of shooting. We're driving up 2nd Avenue here on a quiet Saturday morning, and Dan and I are in the cop car in full Blues Brothers getup. And we've got a lead pickup, just like Hollywood, with a camera crew in the back, kind of guiding us. And it's Justin Schaefer and Justin Foss are hanging out the back of this pickup doing video and sound. And then John is in the lead truck with a walkie-talkie, and Dan and I have a walkie-talkie on our seat so they can talk to us. I'm going to turn here, I'm going to turn there, so we stay in the shot. And John says this over the walkie. He says, you see that switch there, Craig, by your knees? He said, flick it once. And I turn it on, and it's the lights and the sirens on the cop car. So, ooh, I think that's cool. So we come up a couple blocks later, we come up to a red light, and our lead truck goes on through the light, and we're going to get stuck behind the light. And so I look over at Dan, I kind of shrug my shoulders, I flip on the lights, and we go through the light. Dan, who's the most quiet, unassuming guy, he's like, Craig, you're going to get me arrested. I said, Dan, relax, we're in a cop car.
I've seen the video.
Yeah, it's a classic. But what I want to remember about that is it was so much fun, but I also think it was emblematic of all the videos, the radio spots, the podcasts we've created over the years here at FLC. My gosh, we're on episode number 150. We did Pastor Steve on a motorcycle. We did Pastor Steve as a malaria-carrying mosquito. We all did the, remember that one?
Oh, gosh.
We all did the fun football tunnel walk. But this one was the watershed moment. I'd been at minister like 6 months, and I kind of thought that I was supposed to leave my media background behind and just go visit people and do funerals, all the things we're talking about. And God said, no, why don't you try this? And I did it, and it just led to all these great moments that I realized this was the moment that I realized I didn't have to completely set aside my news reporter background or my sense of humor in this calling. Thanks, God. Thanks be to God.
Yeah. We have a couple more fortune cookies. Yep, 3 stories high. Hang on.
Okay, so what you don't know about me is I have a great fear of heights. Or I did. And again, we're out, it's a youth mission trip, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere, but you get one afternoon off. And so on that afternoon off, we had gone into these caves, and I'd slipped, and I'd hurt my wrist, and I probably should have got an x-ray, but I didn't want the kids to know because, I mean, you wait all year to do this mission trip and fundraising and stuff like that. So I go to the drugstore, and I get a brace on my arm. So now I have this club-like thing on my arm. But I am terrified of heights, and I look at the house that we're painting, and it's 3 stories high, and nobody will go up on the last little chunk on the side. I mean, like, we're talking like the side of no man's land. Like, there's like the drain pipe. That's all that's up there, and so we're going to put this ladder up there. Now, what's on the bottom around this is the family has a wolf to guard their property. An
honest-to-God wolf.
An honest-to-God wolf is guarding their property. We are using ladders that you're actually putting on something to get them that extra 2 feet to get to this height of this house.
That's dangerous.
And the house next to us, it's country, but the house next to us was a meth house and had blown up, and the entire family in that house had died. So this is like crazy out in the middle of nowhere. And I know I am that kind of person. I can't leave this house unless we get it done. I got to get up on that ladder. So I'm terrified of heights. So I don't want the kids to know. So I get this all shimmied up, and I get up there, and I'm hanging on. But thank God for that brace, because I shove my arm underneath. There's a bracket up there, and I hold on to the bracket, and the brace is holding me on, and I'm hanging off the side. Don't do this at home. And I'm hanging off the side because I won't let the kids do it, but I want to get her done. And we get all the way done, and the family goes, I had just assumed like nobody would get that corner done. The host church comes out and he goes, we have farm equipment that would have just gotten you up there and taken care of it. Would have lifted you up with no problem. I'm like, I thought I was being like super person up there. I have my brace on my arm, and I'm painting. To this day, I have no fear of heights. None.
Oh, after that, it was all gone?
After that, it's like it's gone because I got up there and, your knees are shaking, but I thought I had a greater call. I was going to get this done.
Katie is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
All right.
So here's the last one. Happy birthday. Here's your new bike. Sort of. Okay,
so it's 2013. This is me. 2013, Diane Selk was leading a bike giveaway that we had, and I don't know where the idea came from, but we gave away 250 new and slightly used bicycles to kids and adults. And key people on this one were Will Middlestead, Phil Neville, I think we all know Phil, was here. Frederick Rottmiller was here, turning gears.
Oh, dear Fred.
Yep, who's passed away. And I forgot this, but I went back and watched the video. Peter Knutson was huge that day. So those 4 guys are down as bikes were coming in from people. They're down there checking them out, changing gears out. I mean, Peter Knutson, Steve's kid, is just up to his elbows in grease, and I get great pictures of him. It was just a great, great day. Robin Wagner was helping out, and she had a 5th grade student. Robin was a teacher, and now she's a single mom. Her name's Kim Wagner, and Robin heard that her bike was stolen. And so we had a purple bike come in, and Diane found out that purple was Kim's favorite color. So all the volunteers signed a birthday card. We had a little cake for her. Dan Musial lit a candle. And when Kim came out, we stopped the whole operation. We had, dozens of people here working. Mm-hmm. Let's all come outside. Kim's here. So we came out. and we sang happy birthday to her. And she's just, in tears and like, oh, this church really loves me, and somebody loves me, and it's just really great. USA Today picked up on the story.
Yeah.
It was just a really cool event that this is a church where we can pull something like that off.
Sure.
It takes a lot of people and a lot of good hearts, and we've had a lot of events like that.
And you think about it, it wasn't the 250 bikes per se; it was the one bike.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it was the one bike that person remembered that we were. But they were, as you said, I remember that day where people would walk here and then they would ride home.
Yes.
You came as a family, walked here. They didn't have transportation. They walked here, and there was a bike and a helmet.
Yeah, that's right. We gave them a helmet
for the parents and for the 3 kids, and they would all ride their back home.
Yes, we got some sponsor to give us helmets, and it was a Katie Lau Lancaster special. We got this person give this person donated that, and somehow we had Vacation Bible School. Oh wait. You got one more?
I got this one. So I remember this. The singing to the unsung. This is another internship story.
So this is you.
It is.
Yeah,
because it took me a while to make.
See, you didn't write your notes down. You would have.
No, jeez, I didn't. My internship was a little different. They actually had to pass a hat to be able to afford me, and I was part-time 6 months instead of the full year full-time.
This is Ascension
and Marion, and they literally passed. And I found out, I'm sitting at home, if there was enough money in the envelope, I got to go there. If there wasn't, I wouldn't have an internship. So I go into church. It's my first Sunday there, and Linda has it scheduled out that she's going to preach. She'll do everything except could I just sing the liturgy? And I'm like, I can do that. I mean, I can do that. And so
you're a good singer.
Well, thank you. And I had practiced, and I'm ready to go and stuff like that. Now, this is a congregation that often the organist, if they got too many notes, would play with one hand. So I mean, like it's just I didn't know all of
basic.
That. It's very and very faith filled, but not First Lutheran organ praise team stuff. Okay. So I start singing the liturgy, and everybody, like, you could hear the audible as their heads popped up out of their books. And I'm an intern, and I'm thinking, what did I just do wrong? Like, did I sing this wrong? Like, I'm singing my little heart out here. I mean, I went to St. Olaf, man. I know how to sing this thing. And so I just keep going. And all of a sudden, Linda is just laughing, and the congregation puts their books down, and everybody starts laughing. Linda didn't sing. So they had not heard the liturgy. They didn't know the liturgy could be sung for 17 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was, this could be sung all this time. I mean, we didn't know that. And what they didn't know is I'm already shaking in my boots, and Linda goes, wanted to see how that'd go. I mean, she just
so her.
And she's
hazing.
Hazing. Internship hazing. And I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? And they're like, no, how fun would this be for a year that they would have somebody do the full service. So I loved, that was my surprise. It was a fun surprise and lots of laughter.
Actually, as you were telling that story, there was another story of ministry that came to my mind. And so it has to do with the birth of our first child. And so I got the call, went to the congregation. We got there in April. It comes summer, and my colleague decided to take vacation in July, just as Becky was at full term. And so, sure enough, Sunday morning, I woke up and she said, I'm not feeling quite right. I don't know. But I got to go to church. I mean, I got church at 8, 9:30, 10, 3 services. The church was across the park out the back gate. So I could walk out the gate, go across this park to the church. Just a beautiful walk. So I said, well, let me know. Her brother was actually visiting us on that weekend. So I go to church. I'm all alone. I do the first service, and I call and to say, how you doing? I didn't get any answer, So I go through the second service, and then I think I call again, or maybe it was less time, and I asked a friend who was a member of the church, can you just find out where my wife is and what's going on? I'm doing the third service, and during the third service, the usher comes down the aisle with a note. And the note said, I'm in room 312. Contractions are about 8 minutes apart. I'm okay. Just come after the service. And I said to the congregation, I said, well, just got this note. We're going to pray for my wife, but everything's okay. But I'm not going to stay and shake hands after church. I got to go. And they all clapped. They were looking forward to having a baby. We had a baby shower with 400 people in this baby shower. Anyway, so I get there. No, this is Maria.
Oh, this is Maria.
Maria,
okay.
very first one.
Yeah.
And so I get to the hospital, and this is true church nerd stuff. So I would always sing to Maria, as Becky was carrying her. And so Becky gives birth, and Maria is born. And, I'm a new father. What do I do? I mean, be with my wife. And they brought the baby over to the weigh station, and they put silver nitrate in her eyes, and she was squawking, and the doctor said, well, why don't you say hi to your daughter? I mean, oh, okay. I go over there, and she's crying, and we're in this kind of, it's more of a obstetrics. I mean, it's steel and tile. I mean, it's hard surfaces, but echoey, and you can hear her, and I don't know what to do. And so I started singing to her.
What song came to mind?
What song came to mind?
She was singing the liturgy.
Well, no, almost. I just bum 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 bum.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord?
But I just hummed it all the way to the end. Bum 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 bum.
Was this around Good Friday at least?
No.
And it's not a happy ditty. I mean, it's a very kind of just
God. Poor Mario.
And the whole room's does he not know what song this is? I mean, they're all Lutheran.
I didn't think about this song. I just thought the room just sort of carried, And
it probably sounded really good,
It
too.
sounded really good. But the doctors and the nurses just kind of looking at me, and Becky, afterwards.
Jesus
Becky
loves
said,
me, buddy. Here was your moment. Jesus loves
Becky
me.
said, why did you sing that song?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I didn't even think about it. What came to my mind.
Oh.
Well, anyway, I'm not... So
I was thinking, were you there when I had my baby? No, you were at the church. Poor Becky, all by herself.
Anyway, we survived. She's fine. But I thought I had carried off the day. I was all by myself and so forth. Well, it turned out later on that in the second service, we said the Lord's Prayer twice. So we did the prayers of the church, and I closed with the Lord's Prayer, and then we did communion, and I did the Lord's Prayer again.
Oopsies.
And then the third service, we didn't do the Lord's Prayer at all. I mean, it just... but in the middle of that, one of the kids asked, the mom, he said, what's the matter with Pastor Steve? He seems kind of off today. I mean, what's going on? And I think the mom kind of knew what was going on. Well, it's... Anyway, so evidently... As a new expectant dad, I fully lived into the reality of that, of just losing my head and not being in charge and on top of anything. But we got through. So...
were you there?
And then singing, Were You There? It was a beautiful song.
I'm sure it sounded really good.
It sounded really good, but the words probably didn't really quite match.
What time of year was it? When was she born?
Well, July. So it didn't.
So
No, there's nothing. There is
Good
no
Friday.
correlation other than he pulled a little song out of nowhere.
It's just
and as a musician, it sounded good.
Yeah,
so you're
because
like, hey, I'm going to keep with this one.
And we're off the rails. All right. Thank you guys for, wow, this has been a great podcast. Everything I could ask for and more.
150. Kudos to you, Pastor Craig.
Oh, thank you.
Carrying this off. I remember kind of sort of the first kind of thinking and inklings about that as we were kind of thinking about online ministry and particularly coming out of COVID, what things we might do. And you suggested doing a podcast, and the faithful work you've done week in and week out, not just simply trying to think about what do we talk about this time and who do we bring on.
How many different voices you've brought in.
Yes.
That's what I love about it.
And then the work of editing so that we actually sound half intelligent. You've done a great job with that. And so thank you very much on behalf of the whole congregation for your work. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. As Pastor Katie said, my favorite part is, is the many voices. I put it off for a while. I knew I could do it. I knew I could sit in a room by myself and talk about the sermon and pray and talk about what I'm hearing I thought I could just do this all by myself. I don't want to do that, So I put it off, and people were saying, we should do a podcast, It wasn't until I think the Spirit spoke and said, no, this is kind of just talking with Will Middlestead, talking with Deborah Hanson, and talking with our engagement task force, and we kind of came up with the format, and it would involve all these guests. And the thing that really strikes me is we have over 150 episodes, 30 minutes an episode. You guys, that's 75 hours of content we've created. If you'd start on midnight at Good Friday, we would still be talking about Jesus on Monday of Easter.
Oh.
If you'd listen to all the episodes back to back.
How poignant.
Yeah. And I think the conversations have been really deep. We had a guest on from LWR here, and he listened in, and he said, what I love about it, I said, how'd your segment turn out? And he said, I was happy with it, but what I really liked was when you and the other pastor, Steve, and Katie and I have talked, and the three of us have talked. He says, I really like how you unlock the scriptures and get into it and really help us understand theology. So thank you both for giving of your time to make it such a success.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, yes.
Happy anniversary to you, First Lutheran and the Faith First podcast. Thanks for being with us today. My thanks to Pastor Steve and Pastor Katie for a memorable episode today and for your 3 years of dedicated service to the gospel in this audio format. And thanks to all of you for listening in and making it so special each and every week. As we say, we truly discover more together at First Lutheran in Cedar Rapids, and together we've created 75 hours of memories. We've covered 110 different topics over 150 episodes. There have been 90 guests on the podcast, including 73 different lay people, 11 youth, 17 different pastors, 4 PhDs, 2 seminary professors, 1 mayor, 1 school superintendent, and 1 New York Times best-selling author. Thank you all for downloading us today and every week. We'll be back for number 151 next week, and we hope you are too. Until then, remember to put your faith first.